Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast, brought to you by Playbook Investors Network, your strategic partner for unstoppable growth. Visit pincommunity.org to get started.
I'm Ken Chester. On the docket, the legendary challenges of Harley-Davidson, self-driving trash bins, and the most stolen cars in America. To add your voice to the conversation, be it to ask a question, share an opinion, or even suggest a future topic of discussion, call or text the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793, or you can email the show directly, talk@techmobility.show. From the Tech Mobility News Desk, I want to talk about something that if you live in rural America, you may already realize, but for the rest of the United States, you might not. And this is a piece that follows the U.S. Census Bureau numbers on older population in rural America. And the opening line is this: in some states, more than half of older residents live in rural areas. In some states, over 50% of older folk, and they're defining that as folks over the age of 65, which means us boomers, most of us, actually. And it opens with this: more than 1 in 5 older Americans live in rural areas, many concentrated in states where more than half of their older populations are in rural areas. A new report, The Older Population in Rural America, 2012 to 2016, and that's by the U.S. Census Bureau, shows that 17.5% of the rural population was 65 years and older, compared to 13.8% in urban areas. The share of the population 65 and older in completely rural counties was the highest in the middle of the country. That's not a surprise to me. Forming a path from North Dakota to Texas. Let me stop right there. From North Dakota to Texas, you are talking about the nation's basically breadbasket. It's where the wheat is grown. It's where the corn is grown. It's where the soybeans are grown. It's where hogs and sheep and pigs are raised. From Minnesota all the way down to Texas, right here in the middle part of the country. And you're talking about farms and a rural way of life that's been passed down in families. Here in Iowa, there are some families that have been here for over 100 years. We have this thing in Iowa called century farms. And what they are is they're recognized by the state of being in the same family for over 100 years. And we have numerous century farms. So it's not a surprise, and a lot of people I talk to, the way the cycle goes. You got the farmer, kid grows up, he goes to Iowa State or he goes to the University of Iowa, he graduates, or she, they come back home to help work the farm. Or maybe they work in town for a little bit and use the skills they've learned to come back on the farm, help mom and dad or grandpa and grandpa. And in the end, they end up taking over the acreage and it stays in the family. That's not a surprise out here. According to the 2012-2016 American Community Survey data, there were 46.2 million older people in the United States, 10.6 million of them in areas designated as rural. Here's the other thing to think about. In rural America, if you need something, I don't care whether you're going to the feed store, the convenience store, or the grocery store, you get in your vehicle, you're going to drive a minimum of 20, 30 miles. Round trip minimum. That's the way it is out here. There's not closeness. That's why it's rural. You're looking at acreages, at least, and I'm speaking about Iowa, you're looking at acreages where your nearest neighbor might be 2 miles away. You learn to be very self-reliant out here. But again, that leads to the challenge. If you've got an aging, older population in rural areas, isolation, depression, and access to health care become major issues. Transportation becomes a major issue, particularly if you're still out there on the homestead living, and maybe you're 5-10 miles from town. And even that has a definition, because when you say that, the town you might be defining may be all of 1,500, 2,000 people. You may be a lot further away from a major metropolitan area, and that becomes an issue if you've got major health problems that need that level of expertise and attention. This will blow your mind because I wasn't ready for this next thing. And again, this is from the Census Bureau. The two states that has the largest percentage of older rural population. I just knew Iowa would be one of them. No, not even out here. Would you believe Vermont and Maine? 65.3% in Vermont and 62.7% in Maine. By comparison, the District of Columbia had none, New Jersey 5.8%, and California 7.1% had the smallest percentages. The rural share of older population in 33 states exceeded the national average. Now, the national average is 22.9%. It means that 22.9% of folk that are considered older live on average in rural areas. 33 states exceeded that average. Arkansas, Maine, Mississippi, Vermont, and West Virginia, more than half of the older population in the entire state lived in rural areas. The demographics and the logistics of that is huge, because the very help they need requires them to be close to the population areas, and yet they're further out. And it also masks a lot of problems. Rural poverty, being food secure, having access to what you need when you need it. And we're not even going to talk about what happens if you get hurt or really sick and you need to get to a hospital. You've been following the news, and what we're seeing in broad swaths of the United States is a retraction of healthcare in rural areas, namely rural hospitals and physicians. General practice physicians in Iowa have been a problem for years, let alone being in smaller towns. So what does this mean? Where are we going with this? Let me throw this at you. Now, on the flip side, while you're thinking about that question, in 8 states, 10% or less of the older population lived in rural areas. California, District of Columbia, Florida, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. I'm going to pick on Florida for a minute. Let me read that again. In 8 states, 10% or less of the older population lived in rural areas. Hold it, because you're saying, but Ken, isn't Florida have a lot of old folk in it? Yes, it does. So let's turn that on its ear, at least in the case of Florida, and say that a lot of Florida isn't rural. I would say probably you're looking at the northern central part of the state and in the Panhandle. And of course, most of the people live south of Gainesville. They live in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Tampa, and Point South. And no, they don't live in the Everglades, so that's not an issue. In Massachusetts, that 5.1 million folk in the 13 counties that make up the Commonwealth, there's not a whole lot of rural area. In the case of Massachusetts, most of the population lives east of Worcester. Worcester is in the central part of the state. I know because I was born there. So when you're talking about rural Massachusetts, you're really talking about points west of Worcester, about the western half of the state. But again, rural populations, boomers, the need for health care, the need for transportation, the need for just being able to get around and have access to the services you need. This is a big deal. And if you're wondering about Iowa, we're at 41.3%, and we rank number 12, in case you were wondering. An iconic motorcycle manufacturer confronts current challenges to its very existence. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
This is the Tech Mobility Show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
The 7-passenger, electronic four-wheel drive Acura MDX. Power and safety, living in perfect harmony.
That was from 2005, 20 years ago. Acura was breaking ground with the MDX, which, by the way, is still in their stable of SUVs and was one of their first SUVs. As Americans continued and as their truck-loving ways grew, it grew into SUVs, crossovers, and the like. And Acura was one of the ones out front defining what a luxury SUV should be and might look like. So that was groundbreaking back then. Nowadays, luxury SUVs are all the rage and pretty much everybody makes one. Back then, not so much. We were just getting serious about pickup trucks at the time. There were a few quote-unquote luxury SUVs out there, but nothing that size. So Acura was breaking ground, taking names, and making history all at once with the MDX. Big, bold, massive, in your face. That has been the legacy of Harley-Davidson since its founding in 1903. As America's premier manufacturer of large boulevard bikes, its legacy has even been applied to Ford F-150 pickup trucks in the past with their Harley-Davidson edition models. But capitalism has little patience for history and iconic brands like as HD finds itself in the fight of its life again. So where does it go from here? This is Topic A. Honestly, there's almost nothing as more American as a Harley-Davidson bike. Generally, they are manufactured in Milwaukee, and the company has a plant in Pennsylvania, and they do import some parts. But basically, they're American-made. And if you own a Harley, there's reasons. It's the Boulevard Ride. It's a big bike. It commands the road. It's the sound. It's that in-your-face, king of the road, it's my highway, and you're just a passenger kind of feeling. Challenge is, though, those bikes run 30 grand plus, and not everybody can afford them. Plus, the times they are a-changing, and we're not even going to talk tariffs because that is kicking them in the mouth too, but I want to talk a little bit about the company itself. Harley has had a variety of owners, including a time where the company management actually raised money and took it private in the early 1980s. But like any major manufacturer that is consumer-facing and building capital goods, durable goods that last longer than a year, Harley's got the same problem. You get comfortable. You get spoiled. You start believing your own press, all of which Harley did. Management decided to capitalize on the more expensive bikes. Well, the catch-22 is this. Those were aimed at baby boomers. Problem is, baby boomers are aging out of the point where they can even ride a Harley. It's not a light bike. And unfortunately, motorcycle riders above a certain age are way more likely to get maimed or killed in motorcycle mishaps. Meaning, if you're a boomer trying to ride a motorcycle, the chances of you having a mishap that would be fatal is 5 times greater than average. 5 times. So what is a company to do? Well, I've talked a lot about various manufacturers on this program. And unfortunately, what Harley's doing is following a familiar pattern. Developed a product everybody loves. You're in your sweet spot. And you get lazy. You get comfortable. You think that whatever you do will be fine. So Harley saying, we've got this brand. This is an awesome brand, and we got people who can afford it. So we're going to major on the upper end of our range. We are going to maximize profit. And we're going to sell expensive bikes. One problem with that. The people you're selling them to, that number of people is dropping. And the people that you want to attract to the bike can't afford it. Does this sound familiar? Jeep was in that cycle before they fired their CEO. Remember the Jeep Wrangler for $108,000? Yeah, no. And then, like another company I know and love, Harley was ignoring their dealers. The dealers said, hey, we need a less expensive bike. Hey, we need this, we need that. Nope. Harley corporate thought they knew best. And the dealers felt alienated. The dealers weren't getting the support they needed. And here's an interesting thing about Harley, or about most motorcycle manufacturers. The dealers make most of their money on accessories. Unlike a car where you would order most of what you want from the factory, and you might do a few things to it afterwards. Major piece of money for a motorcycle dealer is accessories that they add for a profit. And the factory wasn't trying to hear that. They were making it easier for the consumer by ordering them from the factory, and the factory was installing the parts, but it was taking money away from the dealers. And if that wasn't bad enough, on top of all of that, they were wanting dealers to spend $1 million, $2 million in these very expensive dealership makeovers. Now, you would think they would take maybe a leaf from the auto industry. Most automakers, the smart ones anyway, that are looking for dealers to upgrade their facilities will make money available in some sort of sales formula. In other words, if you're in a given market and you're at a certain volume, we'll kick in this much money towards your remodeling. And obviously, the larger the market, the more money they kick in, but it's a bigger palace. Smaller markets, less money, but the manufacturer is kicking in money to facilitate and make possible the upgrades. Harley's not doing that. And if you're a smaller dealer looking at, okay, the factory's taking away a major source of my income by making equipment that I would have added aftermarket standard on the motorcycles they're selling, so that money's gone from me. And you want me to spend this other money and you're not kicking in anything. Obviously, Harley started losing dealers. Kind of makes sense. So where do we go from here? And then we haven't even talked about the whole e-bike craze. And Harley's tried to do that, but they're not really getting it together, because if you're trying to market to boomers, the boomers want the whole experience. They want the Harley sound, the Harley rumble. They want the way the bike is. As opposed to younger folks who are looking for price and certain other things that you're not getting. They got to get this together. And then, you've got input prices, which are becoming a problem. What do you do? What do you do? Are self-driving trash bins the future? We discuss that next. This is the Tech Mobility Show.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. It's 5:30 in the morning. Do you know where your trash receptacle is? This could be the next frontier for autonomous vehicles. In the coming years, instead of jumping out of bed, your self-driving trash receptacle would have already taken itself to the curb. Is this the future? Welcome to Topic B. Autonomous vehicles, trucks, robotaxis, personal cars, aircraft, even delivery vehicles, which we've talked about at length in previous years, delivering stuff like pizzas and things to college students. Now we're down to receptacles, actual trash receptacles that have enough knowledge to take itself to the curb. Does that sound kind of bougie, maybe? Maybe a little too upscale? Well, hear me out a minute. Urban planners, the refuge industry, and cities across the country are reimagining how we manage and dispose of our waste. The New York City Department of Sanitation and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology are among those leveraging artificial intelligence, robotics, and electric power to tackle a growing garbage crisis fueled by cheap products and a throwaway culture. You might not know this, but it shouldn't surprise you. Americans are among the top producers of trash per capita. Each person, each of us, each of the 332 million Americans disposes of nearly 2,000 pounds of trash a year. That's a lot of garbage. And that's back in 2018. Those are figures from the U.S. EPA back in 2018. Simplifying trash day and diverting the 80% of reusable material that still ends up in landfill is one key to solving our problems, and that's according to Javier Lojan, acting commissioner of the New York City Department of Transportation. What he says, we want it easier for residents to recycle and for us to recover more recyclable materials. Well, think about this for a minute. If you are able to capture stuff that can be recycled, it means using less energy, labor, and resources to make it new from virgin materials. Because anytime you recycle, usually the energy involved is much, much less than if you made it the first time. It's easier to reclaim because you're reusing or repurposing. Again, no surprise, most Americans don't recycle regularly, citing the inconvenience and the confusion involved in sorting their trash. Let me stop right here. If you live in Iowa, chances are that you're probably still recycling your bottles and cans. Why? Because we have a bottle law here. And you can get anywhere from a nickel to 10 cents a can or a bottle. So yeah, most of your larger cities either have redemption centers or some of the larger supermarkets have them within the stores, and you bring them in, you process them, you get a ticket, and it turns it into money. And depending, it could be like $10 or $20 worth. So yeah, it's a nice little piece of pocket change. So it works. It works out here, and it certainly can. I don't know how many states have something like that, but in Iowa, it's been as long as I've been. And yeah, everybody saves it. In fact, I've got dairy bottles that are glass bottles for my dairy cream. Those get $2 a piece. You better believe I save them. And yeah, you get charged the deposit when you buy it, which is other motivation to bring it back. And yeah, at $2, you know full well that's going back. I'm not throwing $2 away. Absolutely not. One-way recycling. What they're looking at is they would like to move to what you would call, well, you would think common sense, but what the sanitation engineers are promoting, and they call it a new system, what they call the single stream model. Now here again in Iowa, most cities and towns, we've got two different receptacles. We've got it for mostly trash and recyclable trash, which typically is cardboard, typically. And most households have two, and you put out the blue one, which is the recycled stuff for one day, you put out the regular trash on the other day. That stuff can get fouled if you put the wrong stuff in there. Like, for example, if you put any food scraps in there, that whole load is fouled. They can't use it. What sanitation engineers are talking about now is, okay, we don't care. Put it all in there. Residents throw everything in a one trash bin. In other words, the way it used to be. However, how they deal with it is different. The waste is transported to a remote facility where AI-powered cameras and robots sort it, diverting items that can be recycled. The real goal is to have a system that's more circular, that can reuse and recycle things more. Quick question. Here you go. What is the most recycled thing in the United States? Can you tell me? What is the thing we recycle the most? You ready? Your car. Your car. When we got a whole system over 100 years, and we capture most of the steel, most of the aluminum, most of the metals that go into a manufacturing of a motor vehicle, car, truck, minivan, doesn't matter. And they're high, almost 80% across steel, aluminum, manganese, all the kinds of metals that go into it. We're good at recapturing that. And as a result, it lowers the need for virgin steel and all the things with it, which is great because steel is a leading contributor to climate change. You need carbon, you need heat, a lot of emissions. And mini mills have been the rage for a year. Electric arc mills that basically melt this metal and repurpose it. Your car. You get more use, secondary use, third, fourth, heaven knows, use out of your car. Here's something else you probably didn't know. On the average, from the time that vehicle rolls out of the end of an assembly line to the day it meets a shredder is 20 years. And the United States basically scraps 11% of its vehicle inventory a year. So basically, you're looking at roughly about 11 million vehicles that get scrapped a year. 11 million get scrapped a year. And there's no telling that the new steel washer, dryer, or something that you just took delivery of might have started life as a 1998 Plymouth. Who knew? Who knew? But we're talking about trash now. We're talking about garbage. We're talking about Americans' personal getting rid of stuff. Many large municipalities in the U.S., including Chicago, San Francisco, Denver, and L.A., are already using single stream, but only for recycling and not other waste. It seems that the fly in the ointment here is biodegradable, basically food scraps. And what they're looking at, and I'll get into it another time because in doing research for this feature, I found a really cool composter for the house. It cost $1,000, but oh my God, it was really cool. And I think it would really work. So everything else is what they're trying to recycle. Food scraps And biodegradable organic stuff is still kind of the fly in the ointment in terms of the recycling game. And they want to do something relative to composting, which has a lot of other advantages. Absolutely. But yeah, a automated, autonomous trash bin. Who would have thunk it? I wonder how far it would go, and I wonder what it does in the snow. Next, we share the list of most stolen cars in the United States. Is your car on the list? We are the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than aonmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. aonmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. In 2024, a vehicle was stolen somewhere in the United States every 37 seconds. That works out to about 850,000 vehicles. And while different states have a different vehicle that's proven to be irresistible to thieves, there's some national trends worth discussing. This is Topic C. You would think, with all the anti-theft devices currently available and standard in vehicles today, that number would be nowhere near the hundreds of thousands of vehicles that get pinched every year. And there's some reasons for that. But before we get into that, and I've got the vehicle by state that gets stolen the most. But let's talk about in aggregate numbers, in total numbers. The number one vehicle in two largest states they get stolen. And I'm talking about Texas and California at the top of the list. In aggregate numbers of that 850,000 vehicles, the number one vehicle stolen in Texas is actually, in terms of single state, for one state, it's the most. But it's not the most total. And I'll explain in a minute. In Texas, the vehicle most likely to be stolen in the Lone Star State is the Chevrolet Silverado half-ton. 6,453 of them were stolen last year. Second place in aggregate numbers, state-specific, would be California. And ironically, and you would think, oh no, California is an import state. It'd have to be an import. No. It is the Chevrolet Silverado half-ton. Just a little bit under at 6,248. And for a state specific, these are the two biggest states where they're stolen the most. But overall, nationally, they're not even close. In 20 different states, It's a car that got stolen, a specific car that got stolen the most in 20 different states. And that car is the Hyundai Elantra. Reason being severalfold. From 2011 to 2021, that 10, 11 years, it lacked an electronic engine immobilizer, something that you thought every vehicle had, which is a standard anti-theft device found in just about everything, I thought. I thought it was found in everything. Similar sized Kias have the same problem. And it didn't help that there were TikTok videos showing how to beat the system and steal it. And the numbers are astronomical. It's crazy. Now, these numbers were compiled from Finance Buzz, which got the numbers from claims filed with auto theft insurance outfit National Insurance Crime Bureau. So these are solid statements. But here's a question I want to ask, though. Chevy Silverado, for a minute, before I pick on the Hyundai Elantra. Most of these vehicles GM's been building for the last 20 years come equipped with OnStar, whether it is on or not. And if you do have OnStar on in the vehicle, you could track the vehicle. Now, law enforcement will tell you that if your vehicle is stolen, the sooner you report it, the most likely that you'll get it back. In fact, 80% of vehicles stolen they're able to retrieve within 2 days. If it takes you longer to tell them your vehicle's stolen, there's a problem. But 80%. The Silverado wasn't just Texas and California, but 7 other states. And the Ford F-150 is number 1 in 6 other states. So in 13 states, it's either a Chevy half-ton or a Ford half-ton. What is not on this list at all as being most stolen in any state, and I'm not saying they're not being stolen at all, it's just not the number 1 in that state, and that's the Ram pickup, any of them. And I wonder why that is. I don't know if it's not desirable or their anti-theft is that good, but they don't make this list at all for any state. And in case you're wondering, because we're based in Iowa and I got to do this, in terms of state number of thefts, I was the 43rd out of 50. We had 93. The top vehicle that was stolen, 93 of them. And yeah, it was the Chevy Silverado half-ton. But only 93 of them in Iowa, a state with 99 counties and 3.1 million people. And definitely a lot of Silverados. Now, they don't break down what years of this vehicle were stolen. So we don't know if they're really old ones or maybe 10 or 12-year-old ones or fairly new ones. All it says is this is the make that got stolen. So what you may actually be looking at is slightly older vehicles that don't have all the security features that a brand new 2021, 2, 3, 4, or 5 would have. And that's certainly a thing. Because when we ran this a few years back, we found that one of the most stolen vehicles at that time was a 20-year-old Honda. 20 years old. I'm still getting over that. And obviously, part of this is a theft of opportunity, which is why Hyundai topped the list. Constantly topped the list. Other vehicles that show up as for their states. If you're in New York, most stolen vehicle there was the Honda CR-V, but it was only just under 1,800 of them. If you were in Illinois or Michigan, and this is interesting, Illinois and Michigan, it was the Jeep Grand Cherokee. And together was only 3,100 of them stolen combined. If you are in Tennessee, it was the Nissan Maxima. Now, full disclosure, Nissan has a major plant in Tennessee. And I gotta wonder if that didn't help why the Maxima, which is no longer made, it's been out of production since 2023, would be the one getting nabbed at 1,500 of them in Tennessee. And for the record, is the only state where the Maxima even shows up as number 1, theft. Now there's a smattering of Hondas in Oregon. It's the Honda Civic. In South Carolina, Honda Accord. And here's one for you. Think about this one. In Alabama, the most stolen vehicle in Alabama was the Toyota Camry. 219 of them stolen. Toyota Camry, I have nothing. And of course, Massachusetts has to be different. They got a tie. In Massachusetts, it is as likely that your Honda Accord may be stolen as the Hyundai Elantra. They don't break them out, but total combined is 241. And they're tying. But yeah, stolen. I think it's a matter of lock your car, take your keys, have your wits about you. Don't leave it running. My goodness, people, really, in 2025, do I even need to say this? And I leave you with this. State of New Hampshire had the least number of vehicles stolen at 19. Their number one was only 19 items. What was it? The only one on the list, the only one. It was a van, the GMC Savannah. Who knew? That's it for this edition of Tech Mobility Show. I'm Ken Chester.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.